All right. So, are you ready, Marco?
Yes.
Nice. You ready, Juuso?
Yeah.
Good. All right. So, it's the 2nd of November 2017, and we're having our second meeting where we uh, basically teach how to coordinate a chapter in the Zeitgeist movement. And I have been coordinating the chapter here with the core group for 4 years in Finland. And Juuso and Marco are both involved with the core group and involved with their own sub-chapters as well, but are willing and want to learn now how to coordinate independently. So yesterday in the previous video, we went through the introduction to coordination and had discussion about how I've been coordinating and sort of the insights and guidelines that go with the role of being a coordinator. So right now, this is the second meeting, and I think if we are efficient enough, we can actually get everything done today, which means that that we might or might not have a meeting on Sunday. So I don't think we have like too much to cover anymore. And if we have coordinators come who want to join us, then we can have that. If not, then I don't think we need that. So we'll see if there is a third video or not. But today we're just going to go through how to organize a meeting, just how I used to do it when I began coordinating and how I do it these days. And then we'll go through the different platforms that the Zeitgeist movement here in Finland uses, and then how to communicate and be involved with the international meetings, and then of course questions and answers. And I asked you to do the personality test, the 16 personality test, just out of curiosity. I was interested in what kind of personality types you have, but I don't think we need to discuss that. We can talk about that later, but just to make a note on the video, it might be interesting for coordinators to kind of do this test and see what kind of characteristics they have and what kind of characteristics other people have who want to be coordinators, and maybe that will give us some insights into how to, for example, guide those who want to learn how to coordinate, because I think it depends on the person what kind of approaches work. So for me, there are specific things that I like to do and in specific ways, but that might not work for somebody who has maybe a little bit different personality. So if you're aware what kind of person I am, then, and if you know what your kind of type is, so to say, then maybe you can adjust accordingly. So that's why I wanted you to do it. I don't know if you did them. I know Marco did, but did you have time, Juuso?
Yeah, I did. I have the results here. I got ENTP debater.
All
Was
right.
my personality from the test.
What was the latest result from you, Marco? Do you remember?
ESTP.
Is it the same?
No. It's Juuso had ENTP and I was ESTP.
Oh, yeah. The entrepreneur. All right.
Yes.
Okay. And I had the protagonist. Don't remember what well, you can see it actually here. Well, if I share with you, well, the protagonist ENFJ and role diplomats and strategy people mastery. So that was kind of interesting because a lot of these attributes that were listed here were really kind of interesting in a sense, because they kind of showed that there's a kind of coordinate. I mean, these people are kind of natural coordinators who have this quality of personality. So it was a bit interesting, but I think that many of those personality types had similar characteristics. So that just made me think that there are different ways of doing this, and different personalities may affect that. Okay,
Yeah,
but
but I think that you have been coordinating so long that I think that it might affect your like characteristics
yeah,
and the
definitely,
way you see world.
I think so. I think I have changed as a person substantially after I started coordinating. I definitely see the world completely differently now than I did just 4 years ago, and I have learned a lot of social skills, like and also just, well, basically I've learned how to be myself in situations, and think for myself, and independently, and uh, well, the coordination skills that you learn here also apply outside of the Zeitgeist movement. So I've also learned to take charge of situations, and yeah, yeah, all sorts of things.
You
I think,
have shaped into charismatic and inspiring leader, as is said here about protagonist. You have shaped into that over the years by being a coordinator.
definitely, yeah, definitely. I don't think I wasn't that when I started. So it's something that you can learn while you do this. Definitely, yeah. So that's something very intriguing, and also exciting for you to kind of know that there's a lot of things that you will learn along the way as you coordinate. And I think that that's something to keep in mind as well. Like, it's really rewarding to you personally as well. Even though it takes a lot, but it's worth it. I can tell you from personal experience that it's definitely worth it. If I would have to like do this everything again, I would, because even if I had the chance, it's been busy 4 years. I've done a lot of work. Like, I study, but I've also put in a lot of hours for TCM, and it's not always easy, but it's really rewarding. So I would definitely do it again if given the chance. So okay, I think that we could start this meeting by. Well, I'd first like to inform that last time we didn't really cover the really simple basics about how to start a chapter, because well, I think that everybody who is interested in that can learn it best by reading the chapter's guide. So check the link in the description for that, and you will benefit from reading that. There's for different kind of chapter structures and levels, you find instructions there, and this is just how to actually be the coordinator of that chapter that you are going to establish or going to continue when somebody else, the previous coordinator, stops, for example. So regarding this learning new skills and developing as a person, it's something that came to my mind after the previous meeting is that I have learned a lot of skills. I mean, almost all the skills I can think of I've learned during this past 4 years being a coordinator. Because if there is something that needs to be done and nobody knows how to do it, and or nobody has the time, then the coordinator, who usually has these kind of ideas for what we should do, because they actively think about what we should do and how we should do things better, and what we could use, for example, as new platforms or new tools, then you kind of end up being the one who is proactive, as we talked about yesterday, who takes in the initiative and actually learns how to use those new programs, for example, or software. So I did that just today. I had never used this recording software, open source software OBS that I'm using now to record this meeting. So I had never done that before. It's a new thing for me, but I just learned how to do it today, just because I felt that we have a need for that, and now I know it, and I can use it for everything else going forward. So that's a really good thing, and I can teach it to others as well. So that's just a concrete example of the latest thing that I just decided that I should probably learn how to do. Do you still hear me properly?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
The video from Yuso stopped, so
Yeah, I
I'm
can
frozen.
see that.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So, anyways, I've learned to use Trello, TeamSpeak, Discord, Photoshop, GIMP, YouTube, like uploading videos and editing videos there, and what else? I mean, pretty much everything that I use I've learned through that. And Facebook pages, not just using Facebook as an individual, but as a page and as a group, all sorts of things like that. Really valuable skills that you get to learn if you take the initiative and use the time, and realize that if nobody else does it, then you have to be the one who takes the initiative. So if there's something that needs to be done and you don't know how to, figure it out. That's something I wanted to say yesterday, but that just thought came to me late after the meeting. Okay, do you have anything you want to comment at the moment?
All clear, no comments.
Well, I actually have something to say here. I was actually earlier today having dinner at my friend's place, and we were discussing about what is the most positive thing about us individually. So as for me, we agreed that the most positive thing about me is that I'm highly adaptive.
All right.
And yeah, and my other friend, he's quite a funny guy, so we agreed that he's the funniest of us, and the other guy was the most realistic of us. So that was kind of something I wanted to share here.
All right. So that's actually quite a good way of thinking about you as a person, and what kind of skills do you have and how you can use them to your advantage. And getting to know yourself is really important as well, because you're going to be interacting with a lot of people, different kind of personalities. So knowing yourself is really a really good thing to have mastery of, so to say. If I would what would be the best quality of me? If I would have to say something, it's maybe I'm thorough, and I want to know. I mean, I have a thirst for knowledge. I think that's the best thing, because that keeps me questioning myself, questioning others. I want to know what is like the closest approximation to truth we can achieve, and I'm not interested in opinions or just what feels good. So I think that's what I value about myself the most. I think in a sense that's also realism. What does Juuso think is your best quality?
Well, I'm not sure about what is the one best thing, but we had to think about our good qualities in school, and it was kind of workshop thing. And I back then I thought that one of the good qualities I have is that I get along with different kind of people. I think.
I think that's a really good quality to have, especially for a coordinator. And if if you're a person who doesn't get along with different kind of people or gets agitated or annoyed easily, then that's something you need to work on. That's something that you should learn how to do because it's important. So it's a valuable skill to have, as well. I would like to start by telling you why I coordinate, and I didn't do any notes for myself because I just think it's better just to have this meeting as more of a conversation. Last meeting was so intense. So why do I coordinate? Well, it started with a very simple decision back in 2012, which was I was in a situation where I had the information about how society works and how a resource-based economy could work, and I had this kind of structural understanding, and I have gotten that through the movement's materials. But the movement in Finland had already, the chapter had died at that point, so I had to make the decision of either, reawakening it or just not doing anything with the knowledge that I had. I didn't think of any other ways of using my knowledge than helping others to realize the important messages that TCM has. So, and the understanding. So it was a decision at that specific time. I think I was in a bus or something when I decided that I will have to do that. And then I had a conversation about it with Ilmari, who was the previous coordinator, and he was really supportive by saying that good luck. He didn't think it would turn out to be anything great, but here we are now, and 4 years later, and we have really strong chapter in Finland. So I think that was kind of the beginning, but it's just the history. If we go a bit deeper into why I coordinate, it is because I find it meaningful, and everything we do here, I think, makes a difference in the world. If it didn't, then I wouldn't be doing this. And I've been trying to prove myself wrong. I've been trying to prove the movement wrong all this time that I've supported it for 8 years, or 9 years actually now. So I have found faults in the movement, but I've also found solutions to those criticism. And every time I find something to be at fault with it, I try to find a way to fix that, to make it better. And if someday I find something that I cannot fix, then I will have to leave, or help others to try to fix it, or find some better way of using my energy. But so far, I haven't been able to kind of prove this wrong, and I think it is valuable what we do, and it is really rewarding as well. So that's another thing. I get something from this myself. I invest a lot of time and resources into this, but I get to learn new skills, as I just said. I get to meet new people, make friends. I mean, I have friends, but it's always nice to get new people who think alike, and the conversations we have are amazing. So that's really something special, a bonus that you get from coordinating, and you get to network with people all around the planet. That's amazing. Like I have friends in Austria, Australia, America, Britain, you know, all over the place. I cannot even name all the places. So that specifically comes from being a coordinator, which is amazing. And I would never have had that network if I were not involved with this. But that's not why I coordinate. That's just a bonus as well. I guess if we go to the root of it, it is because it is meaningful. It is because I think it makes a difference. It's the best way to use my time and resources that I know of, and it is because I was inspired by Chuck Fresco's work in the beginning. I mean, I was introduced to Chuck Fresco via Peter Joseph's work, but it was really the resource-based economy and the way Chuck made it so clear, the vision that he had for a new kind of society that has been driving me ever since. The fact that there is a utopia that we can actually strive towards, and it's not an unattainable utopia. It's something that we can do with the current methods and scientific understandings and technology. So we, for a long time, I think we've had what it takes to build this, and I've seen what it could be like, and I think everybody who is at this level wanting to be a coordinator has had a similar experience. Or have you had that kind of experience?
Well, I didn't quite get the point of your. Did you mean like experience that, like the feeling, the certain feeling that you like think that the resource-based economy really is possible, and you see it in the movement, or did you mean something else?
Well, specifically, just seeing that another kind of future is possible, and visualizing it very concretely in your mind. Seeing what it would be like, and thinking about all the ways in which people would act differently, how society would be different. Having this coherent alternative in your mind about what's possible, which is inspiring. Have you had that kind of inspired feeling?
Yeah, of course. For me, I think it happened before I joined the Finnish chapter, when I first got to know the materials of the Zeitgeist movement and Venus project.
Yeah.
I want to say something. Can you try to update this video? I can't stand to watch my frozen face there.
Oh, maybe you can try to...
If you stop sharing and start again or something.
Can you stop your video and then turn it back on?
Yeah, I can try that. Okay, it helps.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Much better now.
It can be a bit confusing to have it just stare there at yourself. All right. So, what about Marco?
Well, my perspective has changed over the years. Well, at first I was like, yeah, another kind of future would be possible. And I still think that. But nowadays it's more like progress oriented.
All right. Yeah.
What drives me forward is the thought that progress is happening all the time.
Yeah.
Towards the Well, I don't even, think of the goal. I just think of the progress, because the goal is just like the goal evolves all the time.
That's actually a really good perspective, and I think about it in the same way. But that kind of inspiration has never left me completely. Like I think that's what has kept me, active, because I've seen what it could be like. So that keeps me going. Um, but definitely, I don't think about it like daily, and it's not that the force that drives me all the time. I think I'm also progress oriented, as you said. So I just think about the next steps, and how to most effectively go forward from here, and I don't really care if we reach a resource-based economy, or if we even reach any of our goals, because action in itself is valuable, and it's worth it. So we don't know, if we are honest with ourselves, we don't know if we're going to make it or not. There's the future is stochastic, we cannot predict it, and it may well be that like it's too late, or that humanity is just too resilient uh, to this kind of change, having been thousands of years within a scarcity-based system. So I don't know, and I don't really care. All I know is that nobody can say that it's impossible, because the future is stochastic, so you don't know if it's possible or not. Even if it's improbable, it's still worth trying to do. And everything else that all the other progress, little tinkering, and the band-aids that people are building for society, it's all relevant, but it all should find a context, and I think it can find a context in what we are working towards. And there always needs to be futurists and forward thinkers, and people who think in a structural way, that can kind of give the guidance for all the other people on what's the direction, where are we going. So I can definitely understand the way you think, Marco, I think.
Yeah, good to hear.
Yeah, so um, I think that's about it, why I coordinate. There is benefits to me that I get from it, but that's not the main point. The main thing is that it's a valuable work, and I find it enjoyable. So I think that's the last thing I want to say about that is, like, you should enjoy it. It's not like a job. It's not like something that you have to suffer from. It's something that you want to do, and you find yourself doing uh, work for the movement, and for the chapter, uh, even when you're supposed to be doing other things. you know, I, uh, you should be doing your schoolwork, or your assignments from work or something like that, and you end up doing all sorts of things for the movement, because you find it, like, you have these projects that you want to finish, and there's all sorts of interesting things that you can do with it. So yeah, it's something that you need to kind of know, that you want to be in a place where the work is rewarding and it's fun, even though it's tasking, and sometimes, as I said yesterday, it can be, sometimes you have to pretend to be happy. But I mean, that's a rare exception, because most of the time I get energy. When we have a really good meeting, afterwards I feel energized. I feel much better than I did before. It's like some people, when they exercise, they get this feeling afterwards, like they have a really good sensation in their body and their mind. And I think that happens when you have these meetings, and when you get things forward, and there's a lot of value and meaning in that. So that kind of drives it. So as new coordinators, I think you should consciously try to get to a place where you can find enjoyment and value in the work that you do.
I also, in addition to what you just said, I also feel like it's my duty to be involved with
Yeah.
with this movement, or like participate in the society in the most productive way. Like, how do I say it? Not like to make money, but to keep the progress flowing, and you know what I mean.
I do. I mean, I have the same feeling. Like one of the things why I started coordinating, and now I just realized it when you said that. I felt like I was in debt because literally I had been like woken up from this illusion that I was living under, and I know it sounds a bit crazy, but that's how it literally felt. It felt like waking up because I had embraced all these sorts of beliefs that I had just been hearing from my environment, and I thought they were the only way to see the world. And then I questioned that, and I questioned my myself, the image that I had about myself and my agency in the world, and the society in which I grew, and all this kind of cultural suggestion that I had built up. I got to kind of unwind, and it made me into a new person, as Yusa said earlier, and I felt that was so rewarding that I had to give something back, uh, pay it forward at least, you know, and I felt that specifically it was the work of the Zeitgeist movement that had gotten me involved, and that's pretty much why I chose to work with the Zeitgeist movement as well afterwards, and I feel that I might have influenced others in a similar way now. I have had experiences and exchanges with people who have, like, tears in their eyes. They've said to me that they never saw the world in this way, and it like completely changed them as a person to see all these new ideas. So I'm so happy to kind of be able to pay the change forward, if you understand what I'm saying, and that's really rewarding as well. But yeah, definitely, there's this sort of, and not just to the Zeitgeist movement, but to the society itself. It's often said that humanity is the thinking parts of planet Earth and the universe. We are the brains, the consciousness. But I think that the Zeitgeist movement members are almost like the thinking parts of society, one could say, or the immune system, as is also sometimes said. So I think we owe it. What do you think?
Yeah, that is a great metaphor for Zeitgeist movement. I think for me personally, I don't have such noble acts here as Marco do and you do. Of course, in the certain way, I feel like I have this like ecological debt that I have to pay in some kind of way, and I think for me that is the Zeitgeist movement to help. Like I have paid. For me personally, living in this planet, I like make global warming and things like that worse, and I have to pay it back somehow.
Yeah.
But for like being involved in the movement, for me, I think the most like biggest reason is that I just want to be on the right side. I feel that this is the right thing to do, and in the end, I can say that I was right and something like that.
Yeah, and you can look back on it happily when you're older and say that at least I tried, and feel good about the things you've done.
I told you so.
I told you so. Yeah. Kind of reminded
something
me.
Like that.
Yeah. Oh well. Would you like to say a few words about why you are driven to be a part of this meeting today? What makes you want to coordinate? Like, what's the core reasons?
I think the core reasons is I feel like I have certain responsibility of the Finnish chapter, and I want to contribute as much as I can. That is the biggest reason for me.
It's really good to hear and really important. You don't know how, actually, 4 years I've waited for somebody to say that, literally. What about Marco?
Well, as I said earlier, that I feel like this is important. I feel like this is right. I feel like this is my duty, as I said.
Yeah.
And I don't always enjoy coordinating, but but as it's my duty, I have to like still do something.
Yeah, I understand. Definitely. The next point that I had here was how much time I use for coordination, and that really varies. Some weeks for example, this week, I think I've used a sinful amount of time. I think like, let me see, it's Thursday. I think at least 15 to 20 hours already. Might be close, and I'm going to use maybe around 15 hours, and I'm going to use at least like 10 more during this week still. So I think it's about 20 hours, which is too much. But I wanted to do this because I'm going to be away for more than half a year now. I mean, not completely away, but not as active because I have to do my thesis in the university. So this is important now that we have these meetings to help you take in the responsibilities and know what it means to be a coordinator. And yeah, so this is a different week, but I've had these kinds of weeks where I work like excessively, and I think the average would be something like I guess 4 hours a week for me is the average. So it's not more than that because I really don't have the time to contribute anymore. That's the maximum that I have on average over the long term. There are, of course, those times when I have more time and I use more hours and I'm more productive. But sometimes for example, this summer, I was working. I was in the woods for most of my time, and I was really tired after that. So I don't think I used as many hours during the summer, but it varies, and that's normal, I think. How much time do you think you use for TCM in a week?
In a week, if I calculate all the meetings and discussions I attend, it would be about 3 hours, because 3 to 2, I think 3 hours is closer because I have to like make everything ready for the Lahti meetups,
Yes.
and they take the 2 hours every 2 weeks. And these coordinating meetings we have in Finnish chapter, and they are 2 hours too. So I would say 2 to 3 hours.
What about Marco?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. maybe like multiple hours, like 3 or 4, or maybe like 3.
Yeah, I think 3 is like the minimum at which you can coordinate effectively. You can do a worse job if you use less, and you can still coordinate. But I think for any new coordinator, it's reasonable to expect that you're going to use 3 hours a week. And it's not like you're counting your hours. It's just that you end up using that time because there's a lot of interesting things going on, and you want to help others, and you feel it's your responsibility to be there if somebody needs you, for example, and to plan meetings and host meetings. That takes time, and then there's the projects that you do on top of that, and sometimes coordinator cannot do as much projects as they would like because they have to do the facilitating communication and making sure that things progress, and meetings have agendas and so on. I would like to also say what the best and worst things have been for me as a coordinator. I think that, well, the best things have been learning the skills, getting to know people. I think getting to know new people, especially other coordinators from around the world, and being involved globally, feeling as a part of a global family. That's been like one of the most rewarding things, not just in coordination, but I think in my life. Feeling connected to humanity, all these different cultures and people from all over the world. It's so rewarding. It's been, I think, the best thing that has come from coordination, and I think just in the tasks that coordinators do, getting to learn new things. I think that's the best thing for me personally. The worst things have been the stress that comes from hosting events, and the time it takes away from your family, your friends, your relatives, your hobbies, your other points of interest, and your to-do list grows and grows. I have a huge list of books I'd love to read, things I'd love to do, paintings I'd love to paint, and books I'd like to write, and videos I'd like to do. I have all sorts of projects just waiting and piling up. So that's, I think, something that you must take into account, and it's a sacrifice that a coordinator has to make, and you have to do it consciously. Otherwise, you'll get burned out because your needs are not met. So you have to decide what you want to do and find the balance, and it takes practice to find that balance, and it's a bit of a painful process. You have to make a lot of decisions. Whether you help your friends, help your family, when they need your help, or whether you go and host a meeting, or help the global family, because it is not an easy decision, and there is no right answer to it, I think. But for me, it has been so that I think that I have to help humanity as a whole. I think that will come back to help everybody I know. I cannot selfishly put my relatives, in front of others, because there are people suffering all over the planet who deserve the help as much as anybody else. So for me, it's been just that has been the main reason for why I have spent so many hours instead of spending more hours with my friends or my family. And it's not easy, and that's the worst thing that has come from being a coordinator, because you have to make these sacrifices. And recently I've been but the silver lining here is that as you go forward, you will learn to manage your time more effectively. As you learn more skills, you become more efficient, and you learn to think about coordination in a new way and more efficiently, as you will see as I show you how I used to hold meetings and how I do them these days. So I've saved countless hours from that, and now I've had more time to spend with my friends, my family, and for myself. I've for a year now, I've tried to have one day a week for myself, for my own things. Usually I use that for the Zeitgeist movement, so I think that's sort of my thing as well. But I I've read books now. I've gotten things done. That I've started projects. I've started, playing ice hockey this autumn. So I've learned to kind of schedule my time better. So I still have time for everything else. And I think I have more time now than I had in the beginning, even though I'm doing more. Because you do learn to become more efficient. So stay with it, be patient, and you will learn how to do things more efficiently if you consciously strive towards that. And don't be burned out by the trade-offs that are and the sacrifices you have to do. Just be realistic in what you can give, and think about these things. It's important. Do you have anything you would like to comment on that? Any ideas? Just another tip. Um, Stay hydrated. You may have noticed that I keep drinking all the time, and I usually drink a lot while I host meetings, because when you talk a lot, you kind of need and always have like a glass of water next to you before you start hosting a meeting. And it's also a good thing to have breaks when you host meetings, so you can go and you know piss all that water away and then continue. That's important as well. So keep that in mind. Just a pro tip.
Most important thing in coordinating, stay hydrated.
Yeah, I think it might be. Um, a thing that I have not had such bad experience with. Actually, I've had a great experience with, but many people I know, coordinators, get burned out because it takes away from their social life, and especially their intimate relationships with the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on their orientation. But uh, that can be tasking. So you have to kind of know when you're in a relationship with somebody, um, to be you need to be as Marco said, that he is adaptive. You have to learn how to be adaptive as a coordinator. You have to know the needs of your partner and your needs, and then it helps if you can tell in advance when you're going to have these meetings, and learn to plan accordingly, and also invest time in the relationship that you're in, and not bring all these ideas that you have about the society into the relationship if that's not welcomed there. So just you can say them if there is a specific time for it, when you feel like it's the right time to do it, and you kind of have to learn how to recognize that time. I wanted to bring this up because I know that coordinators have had this problem that they cannot hold relationships, and I think that's because they kind of demand too much, and it can be hard to find somebody who is like-minded enough to who you can have meaningful discussions with, and so on. But if you find somebody like that, then all the better, and you can have the support that you may need. But you also have to learn how to be independent and how to keep these things away from the relationship, so it doesn't burden that too much. And what else? If you cannot talk about these things with your partner, you have to understand that and find help maybe from your own core group when you have live meetings. As I said previously, coordinators shouldn't burden their team with their own problems, but the team is usually also consisting of your friends, and you make friends, and then when you have off topic time with your teammates, then you can actually discuss your feelings as well, and all the things that go on and happen outside of the movement, and that's something that you need to consciously think as well. So keep that in mind. Hydration. All right. Any ideas, any thoughts on that, or any of that?
Well, not anything specific, but yeah, I think it's a great point that you have to remember to keep the social relationships like healthy in the background.
Definitely, yeah. All right. So, Marco, if you do you have anything you want to say?
Well, yeah, actually, about the best and the worst things about coordinating. Some of the best things are like I like coordinating because I feel like I get to put my skills into test or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and also these meetings we have, as we have right now, these are one of the highlights of the coordinating for me, and also plenty of other things. But then the worst things are probably have been like sometimes I get, like aggressive resistance against the movement. Aggressive, or like some people like to make fun of the movement. And I don't really like that, but I have to like be constructive and
Yeah.
it's kind of puts pressure on me. So that's one of the worst things, but it's it's getting better. It's getting better. Eventually, it has been. I have gotten new people to understand the movement more, and like they may not support the movement, but they understand why the movement exists. So I think that's
Yeah.
one step forward.
Halfway happy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really good that you kind of know what you like and what's asking to you, so you can work on the things that are difficult, and then maybe focus a little more as well, and find energy from doing the things that are rewarding. So there there's always people who oppose, haters. There's always haters, and people oppose the Zeitgeist movement's ideas for various reasons, because mainly because they don't think it's possible, and I understand that. And but you must also always, as we discussed yesterday, um, welcome all criticism. It doesn't help anything if you get angry at people. It's just it's you want to be proven wrong, so you just ask them to provide detailed um, arguments, and then you try to deal with that, and try to find answers to those arguments, and respect the fact that people may think differently. Of course, if they are very offensive, then you don't have to pay that much attention to them, I think. But well, yeah, just very good thing that you're aware of these good, both positive and negative feelings.
And also, I want to say that this is Etelä-Pohjanmaa.
All right. Yeah.
It's not like people walk around with knives, but it's not far from that.
Yeah.
People are quite conservative here.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the area.
Yeah. So it's kind of a challenge to coordinate here.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah.
Be. But it's a really important place for you to be as well.
Yeah, I know. And that's what also drives me forward.
Yeah, good. That's a good way to think about it. What about you? So do you have any ideas now about the best and worst?
I'm not sure about the worst things, but for me especially, one of the best things has been seeing these new people like learning about the movement and resource-based economy and really get excited about it. And I can see the same enthusiasm as I experienced myself back in like 4 years ago when I first got to know the movement and resource-based economy. It's so great to see the same excitement in their lives.
Absolutely. I think your video stopped again, and that's probably my fault. Maybe you want to restart it again.
Okay.
Thanks.
Now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the worst thing?
Well, I'm not sure about the worst thing. I think Marko said good point about how if you are the zeitgeist guy in your group and local community, then if people like hear about opposing point of views or something like that, it really puts pressure on you because they like expect you to respond to those different point of views.
I know that's really difficult, and that's one of the things that kept me researching these ideas for so long, because it's a structuralist point of view, so you have to know about society, economy, ecology, psychology, all these things, and it's so hard and difficult, but it's also really rewarding, and I'm glad if somebody can bring me a new criticism. Mostly it's the same old, same arguments that they could just read the FAQ and be done with it. So it can be frustrating, definitely, and it can be if there is pressure involved, but it's also part of the task, and it's just something you have to kind of accept. I don't know if that helps you, but deal with it or learn to deal with it. All right, but moving forward, organizing a meeting, and sorry for those who are watching this recording, the notes are in Finnish, but I'll just translate as we go along. So I want to tell you how I used to host meetings. So today I'm just going to read from here. Okay, today I woke up early to plan our core group meeting because I had other things to do today, and I didn't have time to plan yesterday because Finland won the junior ice hockey championship gold medals. So obviously I was not available, and so I woke up early to do the plan for the meeting. I had done a kind of file with some preliminary agenda already a week ago, and I used this, and I used to have a template that I used. I copied it into a new document and just then edited that and made the agenda to that as it was a Google Docs document. And I had to be very careful that the template stayed without alterations, and then the edits were done to the new file and all sorts of stuff like that. And I changed the title and started planning on what we should talk about and what the purpose is of the new meeting. And when I had decided the agenda, half an hour before the meeting, I started to go through out loud, just reading through the agenda and how I would present these things, how I would present these ideas, and in what tone of voice. And I wasn't so confident as I am now, so I had to really pay attention into how I speak, and I didn't want people to be discouraged because they thought that I cannot even articulate what I'm trying to say, because it's important for a coordinator to have this clearness of thought and voice, so people feel like they respect that kind of they think that you have knowledge and you know what you're doing. If you stutter a lot, then people start to think that maybe you don't know what you're talking about, and they don't maybe trust you as much. So I actually read out loud, and I suggest that any new coordinators, especially if you start a brand new chapter and are a bit nervous, you can do this. Start reading these things out loud before the meeting, so you are ready when the meeting starts, and just go with it. Don't be afraid, and you're all on the same side. There's nothing to be worried about, and people are there to support you. And be honest always. So I really paid attention to what I said and how I said it, what words I used, what kind of tone of voice I used, and I made sure that I'm always happy, that I'm always excited and enthusiastic, driving them moving forward, inspiring people with by telling them the reasons for why we are doing what we are doing. I think at the beginning that's important, but as you go on, you don't need to do that as much, and you learn to see when the time is when you have to do it. I don't know if I've done it once. Have I ever told you during the year or two that you two have been involved? Have I ever told you, like, have I ever had a motivational speech on why we do the things we do? Do you remember?
I don't remember any specific time, but I remember the 2 or 3 times when you have started this long monologue about the movement or something like that. But they are usually quite inspiring.
It's good to hear. What about Marco? Do you remember?
Well, I wasn't listening, sorry.
All right. Do you remember me giving any inspirational, motivational speeches during the time you've been involved with our chapter?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You do it all the time.
Because I was just saying that I never do it. Oh, really?
It's natural for you.
I guess so. Well, I don't really notice it, so that's a good point when you go forward as a coordinator. I guess you still do it sometimes, but I think it's also to kind of reinforce the things you do for yourself. If you yourself feel a bit disencouraged, then you do it, you feel encouraged, and others feel encouraged as well, and you take them on with you, energize them with you. So it's something that you can do, but consciously I haven't been doing it so often, but maybe a few times. But good to know. So I think that's something that you learn to do. But in the beginning, do it consciously. Be aware of how you influence others, and that's going to affect how the meeting goes, how much people attend the meeting, how active they are, and also how well you're going to execute the things that you plan. So it brings confidence and makes the movement, makes the meeting go faster when you have gone through these things out loud yourself, and you end up spending the meeting on the right things and not on trying to make things clear for yourself. So it's also good for everybody else who joins the meeting. And sometimes it's really good to start a meeting by asking everybody one by one how they are doing. You know, having this kind of circling, how you doing. Well, I don't know how to say it, but you know, everybody can tell a little bit how they're doing. So that means that they have already, you know, said something in the meeting. So it's easier to continue speaking later on. And they are attentive, they are focused then, and also they feel like, you know, it's a community of people who care, and that's what it's about. And it helps them, even if it's just, you know, I'm doing all right, and you know, I've been doing this and this with my life. Then it's still connecting with others, and that's important for chapters to do. Sometimes even every single meeting could start with that. We used to do that, you know, regularly, and it's a good thing to do. And also, I used to well, when we had TeamSpeak meetings, I used to take the chat conversations and paste them and archive everything, and I always stuck to timetables, and if there were something that was not done to completion during the meeting, I did it after the meeting, and if I had some, if my browser was filled with these, what's it called, new tabs. So if I had tabs open, I went through those and closed them. So sometimes it took me 5 hours to host a meeting because I started beforehand, and then I had the meeting, and then I did everything afterwards. So it's a huge task, you know, to do when you start, but it gets easier. It definitely gets easier quite quickly as well. And these days, and I mean, you don't have to do the same mistakes I did. I did a lot of kind of useless things and tried out different things, and when they didn't work, I let go of them and used to do and moved on to do other more efficient things. These days, as you know, this is how I do it these days. Okay, so we have already in the previous meeting agreed what we would cover in the next meeting. So I know that. If we haven't decided, then I will think about, you know, I will reserve some time to think about what is the next goal that we need to achieve. What was the things we did last time, and what would be the logical way to move forward, and what should we do now? And why should we have a meeting? There should always be a reason for it, and specific things you want to accomplish. So in a specific day, I reserve some hours to plan it, and so I can think about these things. So I also think about how these things we do take the movement forward, if it's the most efficient way, and how we can do it in the most efficient manner. And usually I use something like an hour to plan, and I always get new ideas while I plan, and what new ideas that I would like to cover and discuss, and then I write those down. And in my head, I try to do a little bit of I try to think how long it would take to go through these topics, and usually it's like I learned that three topics per meeting is the maximum, and usually you will end up going over time. So try to have more meetings with less things and more conversation, or try to have really efficiently organized meetings with 3 things. This can vary. Maybe you are better at this than I am, so you may have 5 things, I don't know. But be aware that it's not really good to have meetings that last more than 2 hours, which means that you should always try to strive for 1.5 hours, because you will end up being overtime anyways. So do that, and think about beforehand how much time these things will take, and organize these at points in the agenda so that it's kind of a logical way how the meeting goes. And in the end, after you have had the meeting, say out loud to everybody what you covered, what you achieved. Sort of a summary of the meeting at the end. I think it helps. It helps yourself next time to remember what you covered, and it helps everybody who was involved, who's probably quite tired already, to kind of reinforce the memories, like what we covered, and what they especially reinforce if somebody promised to do something until the next meeting. They might have forgotten it already, so it's good to remind them before you leave. So it's the last thing they remember. So that's a good thing to do. Have you found that beneficial, Juuso and Marco?
Well, kind of, yeah. It's good to hear an example how you do it, because
no. I mean, have you found specifically useful when I've had this short summary at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I think the short summary is good because it's like emphasizes the points which we try to make. Yeah.
All right. So now we have it here. So I can show you that we have had this for years now. I've been doing this, and I suggest you continue doing this when you coordinate these meetings. So since the early 2015, I've been having this sheet where I have our meeting times. This was our last meeting, I think, and our previous meeting that we had. Maybe. I sometimes forget, but usually I am very consistent with this. And let me see. Yeah, use your images. You can maybe that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, you like the last meeting.
Yeah, I should have that here, but I can add it later. So I have in the notes from the meeting, I have who attended the meeting and when the meeting was held. So I can also add it, afterwards here. And yeah, and this is organized. This is the amount of meetings where I have been present since 2015, the early 2015. So I think we had a small break here in the spring where we didn't do this, but we had meetings every 2 weeks. So I think I'm over 60 or 70 meetings already. Yeah. You both Juusos are here at the top as well. You can see that we've had very active members previously who have been active but have been on a break and everything, so are on a break at the moment. So I use this and it helps me to see if somebody drops out, because it's not easy as a coordinator to keep track of 20 people or even 10 people. So it's easier if you have this, and you can see if somebody stops coming to the meetings, and you can see how the activity fluctuates through time, and I suggest you continue with that. It saves your brain, and it really makes the activities more efficient. So yeah, do that. And basically this is how I do things today. I have this one card in Trello where I plan things, where I make the notes as a comment to that card, and then I have this activity sheet that I use, and I use like an hour every week when we have this meeting to plan it. Usually I use it like an hour before the meeting starts. I come here and start planning. Okay, so what should we do? And then I write things down. So it gets easier, and then I don't have to use much time after the meeting. I don't do basically anything after the meeting because I do the notes during the meeting. And if you can get somebody else, write down notes, all the better. And that's pretty much it. That's so easy. We use Facebook these days to organize the times for the events, so that's just in the same chat where we discuss other things. Okay, so it's a lot simpler, and it takes maybe one meeting takes 3 hours or 4 hours, where it used to take like 6 to 7 hours, and that's manageable. But that's for a coordinator. Okay, so basically I just make sure that in the meetings, what we have planned to do, we actually execute, and I make sure that people don't, get left behind, and everybody is clear on what we are doing and why. I make sure that there's momentum going and activities, and these meetings help to keep that momentum going, and it makes sure that people are doing their parts in a reasonable time, because usually it helps when a meeting is coming, then you remember that, oh shit, I needed to do some things, and then you do it before the meeting starts, and the main thing is that it gets done. So we can move forward with the plans of the chapter. So that's important to do. And also in the meetings, make sure that everybody gets to speak. Learn people's names, and try to remember what they do outside the movement as well. That helps you kind of form these friendships and facilitates the social cohesion, and helps you remember what they're interested in, so you can maybe see if there's some tasks that they would like or be good at. So all these things are getting to know the people you work with is important as well. Do you have any comments on hosting meetings?
Well, I want to highlight the importance to everyone watching this video or recording afterwards, that the importance of the great platforms and routines, because for me, it's much easier for me the idea of like starting to or feeling in your position, because you have these routines, and for example the Trello platform is really great. We all can see the cards that you update after every meeting, so I think that it makes coordinating much easier, or filling much easier, when I can like keep the same routines, update the same cards after meetings, and like follow our chapter and follow what I have to do from those cards.
That's a really good point. It's very important for the coordinator to archive everything they do, not only the meetings but the plans you have. Trello is good because you can fit a lot of things in a small space. We used to use Google Docs, but it got impossible with the 30 to 50 pages, and it's just not functional. So Trello is good for managing these projects and tasks and everything. And always, write down your ideas, write down your things in there, so people can see, publicly that what you're doing, and they know that, you are doing something, even if you're not hosting an event, so you may inspire action that way as well. So everything you do makes a difference as a coordinator. And that's a good thing. I started the movement by archiving everything we did, like very detailed notes and recordings, voice recordings of the meetings. You can still find them in our Google Drive. I archived them because I didn't want there to be the same thing. I didn't want anybody to go through the same thing that I had to go through, because when the movement died in Finland, there was nothing basically left except for an outdated website which we had to redo. So I had to start from zero, organizing these things, and I had nothing to build upon. So I made sure that I put everything down and archived everything. So even if everybody died and there was nothing left, if the Google Drive survived, then somebody who was interested later on and wanted to form a chapter, they could find how they could find those documents and see how we started, how we progressed. Like the first 3 years are archived there, and then we stopped because it was redundant, and people at that stage would already know what to do themselves. So at this point, I always do everything publicly in the Trello boards that we have, either within group or publicly if that's an option. And yeah, it's a good thing to hear that it really helps. Marco, do you have something to say?
No, not really. I basically agree with what you just said.
All right, very good. And actually, the next thing to do is to see the kind of platforms that we use, which is an example of the logical way I try to organize this agenda. So you can see that we go from one point to the other, and the conversation keeps going, and there's not an abrupt change. So I don't know if you've noticed this before, but now you know at least. You can see here the Zeitgeist Movement Finland Trello, as I see it as an admin, and I think most people see, because most of these are public, except for Discord, the master board where we coordinate the movement in Finland. Yeah, everything else is public. So we have this portal to the activism environment. We have the moving tasks and stationary tasks. We have the RP learning environment project that we're building now with the Finnish chapter. We have the plans for the next few years. We have this is not public either. This is the website development Trello, and then for obvious reasons, and then Z-Day event Trello planning platform that we're going to make global as well, so people can plan events more easily. And that's a thing that you need to keep in mind as a coordinator, because if you do things in your chapter, you want other chapters to be able to build on it. You don't just, as a coordinator, do things so the next coordinator after you will have an easier time. You do things so that everybody in the movement can build upon your work. So it takes a little bit extra effort, but it's definitely worth it. That's why we're having this meeting in English, because now all the other chapters can look at this and can learn how to coordinate a chapter in the Zeitgeist movement by listening to these recordings. Hopefully they're good enough quality for them to go through them and maybe multiple times listen to them. And yeah, European meetup and all these things. If I show you one thing here, I want to show you the plans for the next few years. So we have suggestions here, and then we have all the way from when we started doing this, which was 2000 and actually no, we started doing these plans since 2000 and no, it was 2015, I think, that we started doing this in an organized way. So we have actually done 2015, 2016 already, and now we are in 2017. As you can see, most of the things are in here, what we're planning to do this year. And this helps to keep the focus of the movement. And we also have like a theme for every year. So in 2015, it was the only theme was to have a national meeting to see what the state of the chapter was in Finland. The next year was to be act as an example, you know, lead by example. So that's what we try to do. We try to organize the movement in a way that made it clear that, you know, how things should be done. And this year we want to be completely horizontally coordinated and outwards reaching and do outwards reaching activism. And I think we have definitely done this year, because now these coordination meetings are first time enabling us to work horizontally and divide these tasks of coordination, and then and we have been, as you know, we have been involved in these large events in Finland with the core group. We've joined these events and shared flyers and talked with people about these ideas, and it's something that we set out to do, and we've done it, and that's great, and I'm really proud of it. And next year we still haven't planned what the theme will be, but that will be at the end of this year. We will plan it, or at the first meeting of 2018 you will be able to plan it. I don't know, I think you will use a host that meeting, so be ready for that. So at the first meeting of every year, we have spent planning what we will do that year, what the theme is, what we want to focus on, what our objectives are, and going through what we achieved last year, and if there's something we want to move that we didn't achieve this year. And we have these for 2020, so we did do these for 3 years at a time. And when 2020 comes, then we will have achieved shitloads of things, and we can be really proud of our efforts, and then we can plan the next 3 years in a 2020 decade, and just can't wait what that will be like. But it will take a lot of work, but I think this is a realistic thing that we've done, realistic goals, step by step, building on the work that we've done, and it's amazing to have these plans. So now you know what we have in Trello, which is the most important thing that we use. For staying in contact with people, we use Facebook, WhatsApp, and Discord mainly. This is mostly directed to you people who watch this online later on, so you know what we use. Discord is open for everybody to join. Please join the Zeitgeist Movement server, and it's open for open discussion there. So you can have your chapter meetings there, or just discuss with like-minded people, and that's what we use pretty much. We have also started an Instagram and Twitter accounts recently, and I could add them here, but they're not really for staying in touch with people. They're for social outreach. For a coordinator, I think I will jump here. I personally have subscribed to TCM Global in Facebook, in YouTube, and in Blog Talk Radio. This way I always hear if something happens in the movement at a global level, and also the email list. I will add it here. And in Trello, I have subscribed to all the boards, so I get notifications from everywhere. Do that as a coordinator. You want to get notified if something happens anywhere. You may get a lot of notifications, but it's not too much. You can handle it. And I think that you should have a smartphone that makes coordinating so much more efficient. And you will save time, because you can use time when you're waiting for a bus, waiting in line. I never waste time, you know. If I'm out there somewhere waiting in a line in a supermarket, I can coordinate, because I can just whip out my phone and do something with it. So It's all these kind of things that you can do in your spare time when you have the time. Really helps. I have subscribed. I have directed the email of the movements. The national chapter's email come to my own personal email as well, so I get always notified. How do you say it? Notified. Yeah, if there's a new email. I also actively follow the Facebook page and see if there's any messages there. And everywhere, Discord as well, YouTube, Instagram. You have to be you have to have this network in the social media, so your tentacles are out there and you get notified. So that's for a coordinator to make sure that you know what's going on, and then you will be able to inform those that rely on you to inform them, which is your chapter. To stay involved and updated on what's going on globally, it's important for a coordinator to be a part of the global meetings, international meetings. I mean, in TeamSpeak every month. So next time, I think you should join that meeting and see what it's like. Give an update on how our chapter is doing and take part in the global discussion. And that way you can know what's going on globally and answer those questions, so you won't feel pressured when somebody comes to ask you difficult questions, because you know what's going on. And let me see what I had here. I think that's it. I mean, the last thing maybe would be rational consensus, which is the key thing that any chapter needs to look at, and that is the way that you should approach arriving at decisions, and your group work depends on this. And use that method as perfectly as you can. It takes time, but it's worth it, and you have to kind of know when to be satisfied with the partial consensus as well. So that I want to point out, and I also want to point out that I think I said it last time that not all people are assets. Some people are a strain on your resources and your time, and you have to arrive at a consensus with the group if you feel like somebody is being a pain, if they take your resources and your energy and the energy of the chapter, so you can kick them out, but only after arriving at a rational consensus. So coordinator doesn't do decisions by themselves or dictate what the chapter is doing. Once again, the chapter doesn't work for you, you work for the chapter, and you ask them what they think about your ideas. You present your ideas to them, and they can evaluate it, and you can present your arguments for your ideas, and be responsive to criticism and take it seriously. So I hope that helps. I hope you go and review what we went through last time, the introduction, and especially the guidelines. They're really important. I think I could check them out now to maybe just bring up the if there's something important that I feel like should be emphasized. I want to do that before we have the Q&A part, if you have something you want to discuss. But let's see what it was. So it was this document. But yeah, do you have something you want to comment on right now? Or do you want me to go through this last thing first?
You can go through the last thing.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thanks, Marco. So I think that during these 2 meetings we have covered the basics. I think you have what it takes to coordinate the chapter. If you think you don't, then now is the time to ask those questions, or after I give these final points. If you think you are ready, you have everything you need, to coordinate all the insights, and all the methods, you know how to approach this task, then I have succeeded in this brief course that we've had with two meetings. But remember that you can always ask for help. You can ask for other coordinators, and you can ask for my help as well. So if there's any problems that you face and it seems overwhelming, just come and ask me how I would deal with it, and I can help you move forward. So I'm here for you, and I think other coordinators are as well. So they are really helpful, and you can ask them as well. Anybody, basically. So your task is to make sure that people stay involved with the chapter by making sure that you have a meaning for every meeting that you host, making sure that you know if people are passive, and you can ask them to, you can just ask what they're doing and how they're doing, and that will also help to activate them. Help people connect with each other if they have ideas that other members of the group have some knowledge of. Connect people with each other, and help to take the chapter forward by thinking what the next thing is that would actually help the movement, and how to help the movement best. So think about it consciously, and keep it in mind when you coordinate. And keep in mind that you represent the chapter, you represent the movement, so the image depends on you. So everything you do out in the public, try to kind of remember that it may come back to haunt you. Be nice to people. Then when they see you in a video, they will have a positive, they will have a positive. What's the word? Well, they will remember you in a positive way, and then that takes things forward as well. That's just something that I think of. Maybe it's relevant, maybe it's not. I think this has made me a better person as well, because at first I felt like I need to step up my game and be polite to people, but now it's just a habit. So it's not like external. I find it enjoyable, and I find like I'm making a positive change in the world by making people feel better out there, and that's just something that's come through this coordination task as well. Conflict-free environment, that's what you strive for. And let's see the guidelines. You have your expectations. I think remember what Chuck Fresco said. Whatever happens is real. What you think should happen is unreal, and that's what people get disappointed at. So manage your expectations. Remember what it's like to be a leader. It's about being proactive instead of reactive or passive. It's not about making people work for you. It's about working for people. It's about making more leaders. Leading by example, dividing and delegating work, appreciating everybody's contribution, no matter how small. You don't get as a coordinator, you don't get frustrated with people, and you always are encouraging to them, no matter what the situation is, no matter how you yourself are feeling. Welcome criticism. Help people to believe in themselves. Remind people of a higher purpose when that is necessary, when the occasion demands it. Avoid doing most of the work. Now that you become a coordinator, start immediately looking for the next one. Your task is to find the next person who can take over, who can take, and when you find that, don't leave them just hanging there without your help. Make sure that you are what anybody watching this now. you are going to be a coordinator, which means that it's your job to educate the next coordinator, okay? Like you have gotten help now, please pay forward to them and start looking for new members. Always look for new members and try for people who could take in the coordination role and give them the opportunity to independently try it out, to see if it's for them, to see if they can do it and help them manage it. And I know you can do it, so just ask for help if you need it. So don't run the whole show. You will burn out. Try to find others. Be informed and inform others. Keep focus and keep it on action and be patient. And that's where I want to leave it at. Those are the main things you need to know as a coordinator. And if you want to have any questions now, if you feel like there's something you would like to know, now would be now is your chance, let's say.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions, but I think that I just want to say that the first document or this Google Docs, I find that this might be the more really helpful for anyone who is planning to start coordinating or wants to be a coordinator, because these few pages sums up the most important things. And I just want to say that I really hope that if people watch this video, this would be helpful.
Me too.
That is my final statement. Thank you.
What about Marco?
And I want to thank Teemu for really much for this short course.
Thank you for attending it. Really, it's all about that. It's all about having people who are willing to take on the task, and I'm really happy about this. Marco, do you have something you want to share at the end here? Is there some questions you want to ask, for example?
Not actually questions. I just want to say, even though there are lots of little things to remember when coordinating, I think the most important thing is the attitude which to approach the coordinating, like to stay curious and to stay motivated and just have trust in yourself. I think that's the most important thing.
Definitely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that really. So I think that if you have any questions later on, you can ask them and you can contact me if you have any questions. Also, the people who are watching this, you can contact any of us in the future if we're still around, and I think we will be. And just you will always get help in the Zeitgeist movement. Remember that. It's like Hogwarts, but in real life. So, okay. Oh, yeah, so I think this is it. We won't have a meeting during Sunday unless I get some really magnificent group of coordinators to share their ideas. But I will ask them to share their tips anyways, and I will include them to the document. So thank you for the meeting and this course, and I hope it helps. And I'm eager to see you coordinate during the next half year, and let's see where it takes you. And I'm really happy about this. I mean, it was so life-changing and amazing for me, and I'm so happy if it can do that for you. So let's leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.